Pricing was one of the hardest things for me to get right when I started my business. I priced my cakes much lower than I should have because I thought that because I was new, I was starting out, I didn't think that I deserved to charge more for my cakes. I also really didn't understand what the cakes I was making were actually worth. I think I really focused a lot on the size of the cake as the main criteria for pricing without really taking into account how much work was going into the cakes. I just didn't understand the balance between time and the size of the cakes as well. I also had this idea that keeping my cakes priced lower than other cake companies around town put me in a category of sort of the people's baker, if you will. I had this sense of wanting to make cakes for people who maybe couldn't afford the larger cake companies or the more established bakeries. I had this idea that there was some honor in making my cakes more affordable for people. And I think I was also afraid that if I had higher prices that people would think, who does she think she is, or something like that. I think there was maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome perhaps going on there, where I didn't see myself as being worthy, I guess let's say it, being worthy of charging more for the cakes I was doing. And one of the consequences of that was that I stayed stuck in that frame of mind for many years. I never really advanced in my thinking about how to price my cakes for a long time. And I want to say at least 8 to 10 years. I stayed stuck in this very low price bracket. Once in a while, I would dip my toe in the waters of raising my prices. And for me, it almost felt scary. And I think that has a lot to do with the mindset that I was in. I don't think I really understood how good I was and how much what I was making was in demand. And yeah, that took a long time for me to kind of realize that what I'm doing is a special skill. There's not a lot of competition. There's some competition, but I live in a big city and there's lots of clients, lots of people out there who want to order cakes. And I really had to shift my mindset into realizing that what I was doing was valuable and was worth more money. Simple as that. A few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I will say, I made a conscious decision to shift this way of thinking about myself, my skill, and my value. And I really worked on raising my prices, let's say. I really worked on my mindset, my respect for myself, and realizing, okay, I'm good at this and people like what I'm doing and people will pay for it. Now, one way of thinking about it that I changed and that made a big difference for me was realizing that custom cakes are not for everyone. Not everyone wants to spend the money to get a fancy cake that's going to cost a lot of money, or more money than you would pay if you're just getting a cake from a bakery that's a more simple cake, or a grocery store cake, what have you. Not everyone is going to want to pay that, but some people will. And when I took away the feeling that if I quote a price and they say no, that they say it's too expensive, that I've done something wrong. I think I really felt like, ooh, who do I think I am? I'm charging too much because they say it's too expensive for them. Once I changed my mindset to realizing, of course, not everyone wants to pay that much for a cake, but a lot of people do. And so letting go of that feeling of it's because I've done something wrong when they say it's too expensive, it made it easier to say, you know what, here's my price, but if you don't want to pay that, I get it. I totally understand. And I've said that to many people who've emailed me back saying, oh, I didn't realize how much a cake like this would cost. It's too much for me, but you know, I'm sure your work is amazing and that you're worth it. I've had many people say that. I understand your skill and talent are worth this price, but it's not right for me at this time. And I will always respond with, of course, I get it. Not everyone wants to pay these prices. So when I took away the connection between them saying it was too expensive to me being too big for my britches, and you know, that made a big deal. That made a big change for me because I'm not as emotionally connected to the price and the quote. So it's like, here's my price. If you want to pay it, fantastic, let's go. If you don't, of course I understand. And when I separated my expectation from, you know, after I quote a price, wondering if they're going to take it, like, oh, you know, if you can give your quote and then remove yourself emotionally from it, that's how I found it shifted a lot. So now, you know, I will quote honestly for a cake. Sometimes I'll give an option for a less expensive version of that same cake, but usually I'll take what they ask for. I'll say, okay, you've asked for this is what I'll pay for it, and then I sit back, and that's it. That's all I am emotionally invested in. I will think as hard as I can about how to make this cake the best way I can, and then it's up to them. When you leave it up to them and take away the feeling of your worth being tied to their response, that's when, for me, things changed a lot. And a lot of the times I was surprised. I would quote a price thinking, they're not going to want to pay that. And they would be like, yep, sure, let's go. Great. And that happens more frequently now that I have, taken that emotional connection away from the quoting process and the client's response. And it's helped me a lot. It's boosted my confidence in myself as well. And it's reassured me that I can quote a price that I feel is fair, that I feel I'm well compensated for the work I'm going to do, and I'm going to do the best job I can. And everything's just gotten a lot better since I've been able to do that. And I really wish I had understood that earlier. If I could go back in time to young Tracy out there in the world thinking there was some kind of honor in undercharging for her work, I would just put my hand on her shoulder and say, sweetie, you're worth it and people will pay for it. And I wish I had understood that earlier.